Ryan's here.
Yo, what's up?
All right, everybody, all like five of you that watched this so far. Appreciate the loyalty. But, anyways, welcome back to the Actually Sports show. You can go ahead and do the acronym for yourselves on that one. I didn't plan that. Anyways, we have our official co-host is finally here because I had that very specific illness a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to name it because then we'll get demonetized. But I had it, and we didn't want him to get sick, and life happens. But he is finally here. So, Ryan, go ahead and do something.
Dude, I'm glad to be on the show. It was a wild weekend in the world of football. We were treated to finally 2 great days of actually competitive games.
One of them was not great,
Well,
but fine.
I went 3-1 on the weekend, so I'll take that. But it was a great weekend. I was so glad. This has been the last 3 weeks has been the most football I think I've watched all year.
Same. Same.
Just sitting down and actually watching from start to finish it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that Kansas City Buffalo game.
Oh, dude.
If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I know we're 4 days late into it now, but that was by far one of the best football games I think I have ever seen.
I think the only game that immediately comes to mind, as that game wrapped up, I said to myself, you know what? That was as good, if not better, than the time the Rams and the Chiefs met in the regular season, and we had the duel between Goff and Mahomes. Do you remember that one? Mm-hmm. The final score was both in the 50s.
Yeah.
Something like that. Zero defense.
No.
It was beautiful because the NFL has too much defense. But that was the best playoff game I've ever watched. Mm-hmm. That was incredible, past Super Bowls.
Well, and it was fun because it was close from start to finish. You had the the LA Buccaneers game. It was 27-3 halfway through the third quarter. And,
I loved that.
But yes, but this game was close from start to finish, so you kind of were more engaged. Whereas, in my opinion, and a Falcons fan, this is a little brutal, but watching Tom Brady orchestrate time and time again how he brought that team back. And I think if he doesn't have all of his offensive weapons that are out, Godwin's out with the ACL, if Fournette's at 100%, they would have steamrolled the Rams. And you can look at this and say that's a big what if, because we don't know what was actually going to happen.
Yep.
But for them to get that close and basically Stafford to have to throw the 45-yard Hail Mary, which how Cooper Kupp got one-on-one coverage over the middle is beyond me. But those two were definitely the games of the week, I think.
I think my biggest thing with those two games in particular was, first off, what a performance by Mahomes and Allen. I don't have the words to express how incredible of a performance that was by both of those quarterbacks. Oh, yeah. And I think it sucked how it ended. I'm a Chiefs fan, but it did suck how it ended. But I'll talk about that later because that's my conclusion for this week, is that talking point. But I think the NFL is in very good hands in regards to quarterbacks that are going to inherit the league. Because, the AFC West has Mahomes and Herbert, and you can stop there. Those are 2 elite quarterbacks right there. And then the AFC North has Lamar Jackson. I think Baker Mayfield got too hard of a rap because of how hurt he was. I think he's better than this year showed. And you have Joe Burrow, Joe Cool. Holy freaking cow. Joe Burrow. I love watching him play.
Joe Burrow's so much fun to watch.
He's actually fun.
I hope they get him an offensive line because his career is going to be 6 years max if he keeps taking some of the hits that he's taken.
We've seen way too many careers in the NFL get cut short by injuries. The one that I always go to is RG3. I always go to RG3s because that injury it crippled him because how he played the game. So that's what was so terrible about that. But anyways, the league is in really good hands with young quarterbacks, and I don't think there's anything that could display it better than that playoff game. Now, if we want to talk about the playoff games on Saturday, because I don't need to say anything about the Buccaneers game other than thank God Tom Brady finally lost. But the games on Saturday, I feel like are a lot more confusing to try and break down. Because, I mean, we both call the 49ers losing?
No, I had the Green Bay. I
You
thought
had Green
Green
Bay
Bay was gonna win. Honestly, I thought Aaron Rodgers was playing at an MVP level. I think it's gonna be him, Brady, or Jonathan Taylor for MVP this year. But yeah, I mean they were the healthiest team out of anybody. They were the team that has clicked from start to finish this whole entire season. Matt LaFleur has done tremendous things to that offense, and it has definitely shown that he is a offensive-minded guy. Like, he got Aaron Rodgers to get on board with everything after the whole Mike McCarthy debacle a couple years ago. But yeah, I was shocked. I turned that game on with about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It was snowing, and I don't know how it was a 10-10 game because San Francisco did not score an offensive touchdown.
No, they didn't. And like the biggest shock for me was since starting this podcast, I've done a lot more diving into, like the deeper analytics and performances of some of the players in the league that we consider, the best in the league. And Aaron Rodgers is one of them. And there was a video from a YouTuber that I watched. I can't say his name on here because it's pretty inappropriate, but I watched this video and it was, kind of diagnosing Aaron Rodgers. And I realized that it is a 100% truth that the Green Bay Packers have ruined Rodgers' chances to get to a Super Bowl every single time they've lost in the playoffs, except this one.
Yeah.
This one is the first time he's lost where you can, not all of the blame, because the special teams definitely, I mean, San Francisco, like you just said, San Fran didn't even score an offensive touchdown in this game. All of San Francisco's points came off of special teams play.
Yeah.
But Rodgers did not play to the level that we're used to seeing, and I don't know what caused it. I mean,
think
really,
he played to a level that I think you would expect out of, a 3-time MVP, a Super Bowl winner. I don't think they have enough weapons around him because 90% of his passes went to Aaron Jones or Devontae Adams.
Or Devontae Adams. Wasn't it some crazy statistic? Like, if you take away their yardage, there were only like 30 yards of total offense.
Yeah, if you only take away, I don't know what it was, but if you only take away their yardage plus their catches, all other, I think, 6 or 7 receivers had like maybe 8 catches combined.
Which is insane. For those of you who listen to this and don't understand that is mind-boggling that that's possible in the NFL.
Well, for a running back, too. Like, a running back who gets a lot of touches, who they use a lot in just basically everything. And then, I mean, we all know that Devontae Adams is a superstar.
Right.
He's easily top 2, if not the top dog in wide receiver category right now in the NFL.
I think it's either him or Cooper Kupp.
I mean, yeah.
For this year, it's one of those two.
But I mean that was a surprising of a game. I want to talk about the first game that happened because I didn't get to watch it. I watched the.
You can talk about it.
I watched the highlights of.
Yeah.
And I heard, I read stuff that Tannehill just played the worst game of his career.
That might be the worst game of his career. But, I mean, as a Titans fan, I was pissed. What was the score? 16-19? Yeah, something like that. And I was really upset because the Titans offense totally destroyed what was an incredible game by the Titans defense. Because to keep Joe Burrow and that offense contained for the most part for 60 minutes is a really tall order.
Yeah.
But they sacked Burrow 9 times, and they still lost. Like, how in the world do you let that happen? And I think I'll go over this real quick so that you can talk about that game, but I think it was mismanagement of Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill forgetting that he's not a pinpoint accurate quarterback. Sometimes he is. The one touchdown pass he had in the game was a dime. That was an incredible pass. But he only does that about 30% of the time he throws the ball. So as a fan, I saw that game as, it's time for us to invest in a young quarterback that's going to be the future. But
well, I didn't get a chance to watch the game. Mm-hmm. We were texting a little bit briefly back and forth.
I was mad.
But the fourth quarter, I text you, and I had just, was watching it live through my my Bleacher Report app, and it's like 4th and 1. You have literally one of the best running backs in the league, and he can't get the 1 yard. Like,
he hesitated. That's what was so weird.
But then Vrabel doesn't kick the field goal, and what do they lose by? They lose by a field goal.
It was,
and it's hindsight is 2020, and I understand that. It's a big what if, if you are able to get that first down, you can run out some more clock. I understand that, but it's the playoffs, man. You got to take points where points are available.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a time where Vrabel's aggressive style really bit him in the butt, because I love how aggressive Mike Vrabel is. I mean, I really do. In a conference like the AFC South, that you're usually going to drop 2 games a year that you don't expect to drop in the division. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're Tennessee, you're going to drop one to the Texans, and you're probably going to drop one to the Colts. It's just, that's how that division works. And in those games, you gotta call your shots. You really do sometimes, and I think that's what's led Tennessee to winning the division 2 years in a row, because he's willing to make plays like that. And it, like you said, hindsight's 2020, and it didn't work out this time. But I will say that I never would have not taken those points there.
Right.
The only reason I can see him not doing it is that Tennessee's kicker was very inconsistent this year. Mm. And he might have been looking at it as, well, I've got more confidence in Henry than I do my kicker. Maybe, I don't know, but as a Titans fan, I'm still super impressed with our season. We lost King Henry for half the year, and we still took the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. That's still a really huge accomplishment. So that's my take on it. I was furious when we lost, but after I'd finally cooled down, I was like, you know what? It's okay. It really is okay. We're not really losing anybody this offseason. We can gear up and go at it again. So, you got anything else to add from the weekend?
So. It was a fun weekend.
It was an amazing weekend. I'm
excited about this coming weekend.
I am so excited for this weekend, because speaking of, it is time for us to talk about this next weekend and make our predictions. So you want to do the NFC or the AFC first?
Let's start with the AFC.
I feel like that one's way easier to call.
I don't think so.
Man, I knew it. Dang it.
I don't think so.
I knew it. Okay, so you go ahead and go first.
I think it's going to be a close game, but ultimately in the end, I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Really?
I think Cincinnati is. They have played 2 very, very close games against very good teams.
And one of them, arguably, they should not have won. The Raiders won.
Yeah.
So you got to look at that in the NFL playoffs. Crap like that matters, because those teams that somehow keep managing to win, sometimes those are the ones that win Super Bowls. The New York Giants did it twice.
Yep.
So don't be afraid of the Bengals.
I think if that offensive line can figure out how to block and protect Joe Burrow and open up some running lanes for Joe Mixon, I think you're going to see, like I said, I think it's going to be a close game in the end, but I think that Cincinnati is going to be able to pull it out.
I like your take. I like your take a lot. I'm going with the Chiefs. I won't keep people on the edge of their seat on that one, but I like your reasoning for why you're taking the Bengals, though. It's good reasoning. And this is a game that the reason why I say it's easier to pick this one is because if you think the Bengals are going to win, you really think the Bengals are going to win.
Yeah.
And if you think the Chiefs are going to win, you really think the Chiefs are going to win. The NFC is not that case. But I'm picking the Chiefs in this one because I really think this is a game that's going to come down to exactly what I said last week between the Bills and the Chiefs was going to come down to. I was watching it with my sister and her husband, And I said before the game, I was like, this game is going to come down to who can get one stop. One. And I think that's what's going to happen with Cincinnati and Kansas City this weekend because they played each other 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, they did. That was a close game, too.
It was, and it really did come down to who had the ball last
Yeah.
in that game. But I see this as a game that's going to come down to which team gets a stop when it matters most because these teams know each other. They just played each other. And Andy Reid can 100% out-coach Zach Taylor.
Yeah.
We know that just because of his tenure. There's nothing he hasn't seen. So when it comes down to it, it's going to come down to which defense has the guts to make that one extra play to get that fourth down stop when they really, really got to get it. Because Kansas City's defense is really gutsy, but they have totally been outperforming themselves for the second half of the year. People screaming that the defense is good. No, it's not. It is way outperforming itself. It is not a good defense.
They got guys back, though. And Steve Spagnuolo has he's made some adjustments that he needed to make. He got Sorensen out of there, which I know...
Sorensen getting out was huge. And who's the... They moved... Was it Frank Clark that they moved back to nose tackle?
I think so.
Yeah, it was. I always mix up Frank Clark and the other guy on the Chiefs, but they moved him back to nose tackle instead of an edge rusher, and that's
Chris Jones.
Yes.
Chris Jones back, yeah.
and that's his actual position.
Right.
So
he has wrecked havoc.
he
in the middle.
has. He actually has, which is crazy because he's a little older and he's still managing to pull it off.
Yeah.
But I think if there's an issue with Tyrann Mathieu, that's a really, really big problem for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Because he's their quarterback.
It showed too. I mean, it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be a shootout like that Buffalo game was. But I think
So
there
good.
are gonna be points scored, and I think there's gonna be points scored in a hurry.
Yeah, it's maybe going to be one of those scenarios where nothing's really happening for the first quarter and a half,
Yep.
but then the last 7 minutes are, all of a sudden the Chiefs put up 13 and the Bengals put up 14.
Right.
Just bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
It's going to be that. That would not surprise me.
I think
at
it's gonna
all.
be a good game though. I just don't want to see Patrick Mahomes in for another Super Bowl.
Oh, what? Oh, what? You don't like Patrick Mahomes? You don't like this guy, man? Come on, we're gonna go. Hey, we're gonna do this, man. We're gonna go win another Super Bowl, man. Also, my wife, Miss Piggy.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, I got sacked last week, and she was already on Instagram complaining about it. That is wifey material. Somebody should marry her. That's totally a
This is getting away from you right now.
dude. That's totally a pot shot at Mahomes not marrying his girlfriend. I didn't intend to do that, but hey, that's staying in. That was actually a decently solid joke. But okay, moving on. Up next, the NFC, dude. I don't know what to think about the NFC game, man. I've been thinking about this all week, and it's Thursday for those of you who aren't aware. We're recording a little early this time, but
This
I
is San
don't know.
Fran, LA round 3.
yeah,
These
it
playoffs,
is.
these playoffs has been about round 3s for half the teams. I feel like.
Yeah. Well, and the Rams and Buccaneers played each other this year already.
Yeah, they played each other week 3.
Yeah.
The Rams won that one too.
That one was a spanking. I remember that.
That one was a blowout. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably what I'm supposed to.
Gosh.
Okay, so whenever we struggle like this on picks, I always love to look at why the two teams are there. So why are the Rams here? The Rams are here because of star talent, and Sean McVay knows how to call an offense very, very well, and it's just kind of up to his offense to actually execute it. So that's why they're here. Pretty much star talent. That's it. And the reason they beat the Buccaneers was literally star talent. Cooper Kupp somehow got open and Stafford hit him.
Golly.
So that's why they're here. The 49ers are here because they play some of the most sound, old school football in the league. They don't make mistakes. The only mistakes they make is when Jimmy G has an errant throw,
Yeah.
really. They don't fumble very often. They don't commit penalties. They do rarely turn the ball over. Jimmy G is hurt, so I give him a little bit of a break on turnovers because his shoulder has been partially torn
And he's
for
got his hand
weeks.
issue now.
Yeah, so that's a
thumb, I
double
think.
thing. And anybody who's ever had an injured shoulder who tries to throw a football at high velocity, it is hard. So don't give him a little bit slack. But yeah, it's so we look at those things: star power versus super sound football.
Kyle Shanahan is a genius.
That
Kyle
man-
Shanahan has single-handedly willed that San Francisco 49ers team to an NFC championship game.
Dude, I would argue that this is the second time he's done this because the 49ers team that went to the Super Bowl on paper was not that great.
They were better than this team.
They were better than this
They
team.
were better than this team, I would say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I would
to
agree
have
with that.
three, I mean, he was an offensive coordinator in Atlanta when they went, but to have three, all the teams to me were very similar. The defenses were pretty good to get you to where they needed to be, but the offenses were so high powered and they were so like when they were clicking, and
Mhm.
when if I think this game is going to come down basically to the same thing in the AFC game is. Does San Francisco have the ball last? If San Francisco has the ball last with a chance to either tie the game, go up one score, however it may be, I think San Francisco is going to win.
It's almost like they actually have that clutch factor to them.
Yeah.
Where it's like, for some reason, when the game is on the line, every single one of them is just able to lock in and play perfect football.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how talented your team is. When you're going up against an offensive line that's 100% in sync and receivers that are on the same page as their quarterbacks and also running backs that are seeing their gaps, there's almost nothing you can do to overcome that. And especially when you have somebody named Debo Samuel, who is just, dude, he needs to be like the best all-around player on Madden right now. He is playing his butt off, and he's pretty much the only reason why San Francisco got 6 of their points.
You're going to see, I think, this weekend really some of the bright young head coaches in the NFL. I know Kyle Shanahan, I think, is in his 40s now, and McVay's almost 40, but I think the two offenses to me are very similar. They're not as, San Fran isn't as high powered.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have as many big name guys, but there's so many different gadget guys you can throw. You can run screens, you can run these reverses, you can run, and I think you've got, these offenses now, all 4 of them that are still standing can basically plug and play however they want.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this weekend is going to be a lot of fun. We never made predictions. Who do you have for the weekend for the NFC?
You know what? I'm actually going to go with the Chiefs. Well, I did say the Chiefs, but I'm gonna go with the Rams, man. I'm going to go with the Rams strictly because Stafford seems to finally understand that his team doesn't need him to play hero ball like Detroit did.
Mm-hmm.
And when he doesn't have to play hero ball, that's when he's at his best. When he just go throw the ball, that's all we need from you. That's when he plays really, really, really well. And also Cam Akers, aside from those 2 fumbles, he had an amazing game against the Buccaneers. He had a really good game against the Buccaneers, and that was the best rushing defense in the NFL. So, San Fran, I think it's going to end the same way that you said, where it's going to be whoever has the ball last. I have a lot of faith in the Rams' ability to devise the game to where they will have the ball last. Their offense is potent enough to be able to drain enough clock to be like, okay, San Fran, you can have the ball back, but you don't have any timeouts left, and we're going to stop you on 3 plays, so we're going to get the ball back. I think that's going to be what happens. So I got the Rams, man.
I'm going to take the Rams, too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see San Francisco. I think it'll be a close game, but yeah, I think San Fran's gonna gonna lose this one in LA versus Cincinnati for the Super Bowls of Super Bowl. And then the Rams will be the second team in NFL history to win a Super Bowl at their home stadium.
Oh, you think that the Rams would take that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a feeling it probably has something to do with the fact that the Cincinnati offensive line would have to contend with Von Miller and Aaron Donald.
Von Miller is playing playoff football.
And he knows how to as well. That's an important thing.
He is channeling his inner Super Bowl 50, and he's not getting to the quarterback, but he is making his presence known. And Aaron Donald is a man among boys.
Aaron Donald is going to demand if they go against the Bengals, they're going to have to triple team him. They're going to have to chip him with a tight end on every play, and then there's going to be 2 offensive linemen dedicated to him wherever he lines up. And then that's the other problem. If you put Von Miller behind him and Donald is taken up too, Von Miller has a clean shot to the quarterback at that point. And Joe Burrow, the one critique I've got for Burrow is that he is not the best about evading pressure, but he knows that, and he's mentioned that that's kind of the last thing that he's getting back from his injury, because a big part of evading pressure is being able to almost snap your foot back into the ground so you can plant and move forward really quick, and he's still a little afraid to do that, and that's 100% understandable.
Oh, yeah.
So I will throw this out here, though. I don't care who the matchup is for the Super Bowl. I'm good with any of these 4 teams going against each other in the Super Bowl. I think it would be an intriguing matchup no matter who it is. I think that the real Super Bowl was Kansas City Buffalo. I think those were the 2 best teams in the league.
Those were the 2 best teams in the league.
And I hate it when that happens. That happened with Seattle and San Francisco a few years back, I think, when Seattle won their Super Bowl. That happened.
Yeah.
It was either when they won their Super Bowl or when they lost to the Patriots, but the Niners and the Seahawks met in the NFC Championship game, and the Seahawks were like 13-3, and the Niners were 12-4, like something like that, and they were obviously the 2 best teams in the league that year, and I think we saw that with Buffalo, Kansas City. That was such a game for the ages.
So good.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens. I went 2-2 last week. Ryan went 3-1. We'll see what happens. I see only good potential with these games, though. I think they're going to be good games no matter what.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I would love for Kansas City, Cincinnati to be a shootout. I don't think it's going to be, but I'd be so happy to watch it.
Just each quarterback throws up like 400-plus yards.
Dude, I would love it. Did you see that Travis Kelce called his own play? On that play? Did you see that?
I didn't see it. I saw the report that Travis Kelce called his own play.
Yeah, he did. The footage is literally... So the play before the play that he got hit on the open seam, Kelce goes over to Mahomes and he tells him, he's like, if they're covering like that, that seam's going to be open. And then before the play, you hear Mahomes, after he's looked at the defense, Mahomes yells at him, Kelce, run it, twice, telling him, run that seam. And that's exactly what happened. They actually called it right.
I don't understand, just going back to that game, I don't understand why Buffalo was in a prevent sideline defense. Kansas City had all 3 timeouts left.
Yep.
You have arguably the fastest wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, arguably the most athletic receiver tight end in Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Why are you not playing a little bit tighter coverage?
I don't understand, but then again, I remember that the defensive coordinator is Leslie Frazier, and I question some of his decisions a lot. But to the Buffalo Bills defense credit, trying to contain Kansas City's offense when it's clicking is impossible. It really is impossible. When that thing's working, it is a Ferrari. You're not stopping it. But
you just gave him too much space to operate.
And that's really bad because Andy Reid is a wizard at somehow having guys down the field to block already. He literally designs plays so that, well, I know that we're going to throw it to Tyreek, but I'm going to have Byron Pringle and Travis Kelce run seams down the field so that they're blocking whenever he catches the ball. Like, he just does it. It's so easy for him. But I think it's going to be a great weekend.
Yeah, well.
Now, what we have been looking forward to since the season ended. We can finally talk about off-season questions because Ryan is here. I didn't want to do any of this until he was here. But the first question, we all need to have a little bit of a pity clap for Ryan.
No pity clap.
Because he's a Falcons fan, and life has been torture ever since the Super Bowl.
It's the hardest thing being a Falcons fan.
It's like Cleveland is the factory of sadness, but I feel like the Falcons are like the factory of heroin addicts of football because it's like when things are great, they're like so freaking great, but then when they're bad, it's like who is writing this script? Like who does this?
Even when they're great, they're bad.
Yeah, 28-3.
Everybody wants to talk about like how good this offense was this year. No, the offense was terrible. Everybody was so excited. They're going to be like, and I was one of those people who was excited. When they drafted Kyle Pitts, I was so excited.
In reflection, that was still a good pickup, though.
Oh, it's a great pick.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Pick. Everyone was so upset about it, but it's a great pick.
It's worth it. The tight end is the next position that if there's a generational talent there, teams are stretching in the draft to go get it, and it's paying off because you've got guys like Kelsey, Kittle, Kyle Pitts. He's in Cleveland. Oh, Austin Hooper was another one who was really, really good. You've got the Ravens tight end, Adams.
Darren Waller.
Yeah, I mean, it's guys that are Gronkowski but better are becoming the new, like, okay, if there's one in the draft, it's okay to stretch a bit to get him.
Kyle Pitts is so athletic.
Mhm.
It's not even fair. Like, he's so good, and he's only played one full season of football.
Yeah.
Like in the NFL.
Where'd he go to college at again?
He went to Florida.
Florida, that's
He
right.
balled out of Florida.
Yeah, like the only thing that kept them relevant. But, anyways, Falcons.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. I want to know desperately if you were the GM, as a fan, what do you want to see happen with the Falcons? Like, what's their salary cap situation? Who are they losing? Who are they thinking about trading? Who would be a great trade target? A realistic one, though, because I don't think hardly like two teams in the league have the assets to go get Rodgers or Wilson, but we'll talk about that later.
Basically, there's no salary cap. Like, they have no money to spend because they restructured and gave money like it was candy on Halloween night to just literally everybody. And now those deals are biting them in the butt. They're still paying Julio Jones, who's not even on the team anymore.
Tennessee made out like a bandit on that trade.
I would beg to differ. Julio played like 4 games this year for you guys, and he put up like 300 yards.
We're not paying him though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I haven't really seen a lot. There's talks that they want to potentially move a couple of guys.
What about Matty Ice?
He's staying. He's got too much money tied into him. He's owed like almost $50 million this year.
You don't see some stupid team like the Jets or the Giants. The Giants might decide to show the world how, butt backwards they are and trade for Matty Ice.
I don't think they'll trade Matt Ryan. I don't think Matt Ryan wants to go anywhere either.
I don't think he does.
At least not this year. Next year, that would probably change. It's just up in the air what they're going to do. Personally, I would like to see them trade a couple of guys and get some picks and go into a rebuild. I think they have a good foundation with some of these guys, but there's so much speculation with Calvin Ridley. He's probably not going to come back. They only have one wide receiver signed to the team.
Who is that?
Frank Darby, who was a 6th round pick out of Arizona State this year.
Okay.
Played a handful of snaps.
Nice.
Dude,
that's a good foundation for your wide receiver core.
Great.
What are you talking about?
Well, and then you got Kyle Pitts, too, who's basically he can play everything.
Yeah.
That's really all they need.
They just need Pitts.
They need 22 Pitts, It's going to be interesting. I think Atlanta, I hope, like, I would love to see them trade out of where they are right now in the draft, which is number 10, and get a couple more either first round picks, a couple second round picks, and move back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them going for a quarterback, and the position that I think they would need to fill right away would either be offensive line or a defensive back. There's the guy out of LSU,
Yep.
Singletary, I think.
DBU, man. LSU corners are
So
solid
good.
guys.
Yeah, I would like to see that, but who knows what's going to happen.
You know, I just realized this because the quarterback class this year isn't that impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10 is actually a really enticing position for a quarterback needy team
Yeah.
because none of the quarterbacks in the class are better than probably 6 or 5, I would say. I don't
Somebody's going to reach.
Oh, somebody's 100% going to reach, and it's probably going to be for that kid from Liberty because he's not super well known. Like, nobody really quite knows about him.
Mm-hmm.
And because Trey Lance hasn't definitively worked out or not worked out yet, I bet you there's going to be an organization like, I don't know, Houston that might pull something like that. Although I think Houston needs to stick with Davis Mills for one more year. That kid looked really good
Yeah.
against some really good teams. So
With basically no help around him.
literally no help around him. Rex Burkhead is your best offensive player. Congratulations. Your best player is a 34-year-old white guy. Good job.
Rex Burkhead, man. Journeyman.
He is a journeyman. A lot of those Patriots
He's a
guys
Super
were.
Bowl winner, too. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I've seen a lot. This is probably, off-season is my favorite time of the year for football because you start seeing a lot of rumors flying around. You start seeing more about the draft process, who's coming out, who's going to go where. But yeah, and I think if it was, and honestly, I think for any of these teams drafting in the top 10, they would be very, very smart to try to get out of the position that they're in.
Yeah, because this is an interesting scenario where quite a few teams in the top 10, they do at least have an idea
Right.
at the quarterback position
Mhm.
or the elite skills position. Like they know. Like I feel like Detroit has the number 2 pick, and it's
Mhm.
like I don't really think they need a quarterback. Not at number 2.
No.
None of the quarterbacks are worthy of the number 2 pick.
I think you'll see 1, 2. I think you'll see Jacksonville, which they've talked about wanting to get out of number 1 spot. I think
Yeah,
it would be smart to stay where they are and draft. I think it's Evan Neal out of Alabama, 1, and then Detroit to stay where they are and draft Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. Other than that, I think really the draft starts at number 3.
Oh wow, you don't think Detroit would grab that Michigan linebacker, Hutchins?
I don't think so. I think he's going to be a system guy personally. I think he's going to be like one of those like Dante Fowler type players who's going to benefit from having a star around who gets more attention. Now I could be
Oh,
wrong.
yeah.
I could be wrong, but that was a loaded front 7 for Michigan.
It was.
They
and
had multiple guys who had 10 plus sacks.
Mhm.
And so I think that's the biggest question mark. Everything that I've read is just and watched a little bit here and there. That's the biggest question mark out of some of those guys. I think Hutchinson and Ajobo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like I said, I think really the draft starts at number 3.
Who holds 3? The Giants?
I don't know.
I think it is the Giants that have number 3 because I think the Giants have 2.
The Giants have 2 picks.
Yeah.
Jets have 2 picks. The Dolphins have 2 or 3 picks, I think.
Oh man, the Dolphins. Oh, but yeah, I agree with you though. I think the draft really starts somewhere in the middle of the top 10. That's when it's like, okay, now we need to start paying attention because
Right.
this is when we're gonna see teams reach
Mhm.
and do stupid stuff that's gonna doom them for the next 3 years. Like it's gonna be stuff like that, and I think there's gonna be a lot of first round trades. I think we're going to see a ton of teams flipping their picks.
This is really like one of those drafts that I don't think I mean, in recent memory, that you don't. There could be so many different scenarios that play out.
Yeah.
I don't think you have like, last year you had the top 10, and that was pretty much set. I think there was one or maybe one surprise in there, but for the most part, you knew where everyone was going.
Yeah.
And I think this year there's really, aside from Neal, who didn't allow a single sack, I think at Alabama his entire 3 years he was there, and Thibodeau, who was just a monster. I think those two are really your clear-cut 1-2. I think Hutchinson, like I said, I think he benefited from a very good Michigan defense, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes from here.
I think it's interesting that the NFL still hasn't seemed to learn that a guaranteed product is worth the pick. Like, they still don't seem to understand that. Like, Trevor Lawrence, I think Trevor Lawrence is way better than his year suggests because of how awful the Jaguars were managed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone who is a former player, former quarterback, former coordinator looked at the Jaguars and said, this is the worst team we have ever seen. Yes, worse than the 0-16 Lions. Yes, worse than the 0-16 Browns. Like, the decisions this team makes are so terrible.
Yeah.
It's on the field. So, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine. He just needs to get an actual coach and some players. And then you have Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert was about as guaranteed as you could get that, hey, this dude's a starter in the NFL. Like, you need to draft this guy, and your franchise will be set at the quarterback position for 10 years. And everyone was still going, I don't know, man. I don't know. Because he didn't have super flashy numbers, and he wasn't a crazy flashy player overall. But it's like, the dude was a starter pretty much his entire career at Oregon, and he never lost them a game.
Yeah.
He was never responsible for losing them a game, and he went up against some pretty elite competition while he was there. So, I don't understand, because you brought it up just a second ago that Alabama lineman is a guaranteed product, and so is Thibodeau at Oregon. He's guaranteed. This dude is good.
Yeah.
Like, just draft him already.
Right.
And yet we're still hearing stories of, maybe we'll draft that Liberty quarterback, or maybe we'll draft the Pittsburgh quarterback. Why? Go get the dudes that you know are amazing. And then, you know what? If you figure out that you don't necessarily need them down the line or they're too expensive, trade them.
Yeah.
Seriously. Just get some assets out of them. But don't doom your franchise. Don't doom your franchise. But we gotta get on to the next topic, which is quarterbacks related. It's Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Tom Brady, the three most important names in the quarterback room this offseason. So let's dive into the easiest one that doesn't really involve much scenario, which is Brady. What do you think he's gonna do?
I think he comes back.
You think he comes back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he signed a 2-year?
He signed a 2-year deal. There's two things I want to ask your opinion on with it. In that Rams game, that is the first time I've looked at Tom Brady and said, wow, he's looking old. That was the first time I've ever said that about Tom Brady. He was walking over to his sideline after he got shot in the lip by Von Miller. And I wasn't looking at his lip being busted. I was looking at Tom Brady, and I just went, he actually looks like he's finally showing his age. He's got gray hairs. They're becoming more and more apparent. And when he was coming over to that sideline, it looked like he was feeling that hit a little more so than he normally does.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about
that? I don't know. That hit obviously didn't rattle him. I mean, I think he still looked just as good as he's ever been.
Yeah.
And I think he comes back. I think he's got a little bit of fire underneath him. I hope it's with the Buccaneers, and I hope they are able to retain some of these guys. I would like to see him come back again and try to, as much as I don't like Tom Brady, and I have gotten tired of listening to announcers just ride Tom Brady the entire game and not talk about anything else.
Yep.
I would love to see a Kobe Bryant-esque like farewell tour for Tom Brady. Like I would love for Tom Brady to sign a 1-year deal. This is it. No matter what happens, I'm done. Let's have fun with this. And that's what I would want to see. I would hate for him just to retire, and you get that taste of, like, oh, they lost in the playoffs. It's just like he did when they lost in the divisional or the wild card round in New England. They lost, and then he just left.
Mm-hmm.
And New England fans are just stuck with that taste in their mouth. So I would like to see a farewell tour for Tom Brady.
Yeah, a friendly reminder that Tennessee beat New England so bad in the playoffs that Tom Brady left.
Yeah,
because that's who did it.
Pretty
But the other thing that I want to bring up about it is that he's been asked these questions for years. Because the dude is 45, and this is the first time. excuse me. This is the first time that he's talking pretty openly about the possibility of retirement, and he's really, really mentioning his family a lot for the first time publicly.
Yeah, his kids are getting older.
Yeah,
He's got nothing left to prove.
No, he doesn't. And I despise Tom Brady. I hate the man. I think that he is a plague on the league because announcers are always just serenading him with the praises of the heavens every time he steps on the freaking field. And I swear to God, he is the luckiest player in the history of the league because the stuff that happens in his games that lead to him having incredible field position is ridiculous how often it happens. But the man is still a human, and I still have to recognize that he doesn't have a single darn thing to prove to anybody. He really doesn't. I hate him, but I still recognize his greatness.
Yeah.
So I personally would like to see him retire as a human being because I want him to be able to enjoy the life that he's built.
Yeah.
With his wife and his family. It's time, man. I think his oldest son that he had with that actress is, I think, almost a teenager at this point, if not already.
I think so.
And then he has his 2 kids with Giselle. His son with Giselle is, I think, 9 or 10, something like that. So he's already double digits, and he's only known as dad for half of his life, really, because the football season is 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, Tom Brady's season of I don't do anything except football is 6 months. So it's I kind of want to see him enjoy his life, and I think that he's finally realizing it. So I want him to retire, not to see him out of the league.
Yeah.
But I want to see a fellow human being enjoy what he has worked so hard to build.
Yeah.
So that's Brady. Now the other two that are really tough to deal with, Rodgers and Wilson. What do you think is going to happen with Wilson?
I think Russ.
Chef Russ.
I don't know.
It's freaking raw!
It's so hard to say with Russell Wilson because he's
an enigma, dude. He never shows his hand.
He wants to. I don't know. That Seattle team's not going to win anytime soon.
Unless they seriously address that defense.
Yeah.
And get some consistency on offense.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen.
No, nothing's going to happen. I think he stays in Seattle.
Really?
I really think he stays in Seattle.
Do you think that's because the asking price is too high?
I mean, it's going to cost you a couple of first-rounders.
Yeah, the only team that I think has the assets to get Rodgers or Wilson, realistically, without selling their soul, is the Giants. That's it. Maybe the Dolphins.
I think Philadelphia has a couple of picks as well.
Oh, dude, what if Philadelphia came out of nowhere and stole one of those two?
I just don't see Philly they're basically... they're basically the Seahawks, just with a less potent offense.
Yeah, and not as good of a coaching staff, I'll actually say that. I don't think Sirianni is a better coach than Carroll, personally.
I think Sirianni has done I personally think he did a really good job.
With what he's got, he did a good job.
With what he had.
Mm-hmm.
And that team was... they were ready to give up halfway through the season when they traded Zach Ertz to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, somehow, Jalen Hurts turned it around, and they were able to make the playoffs. Yes, they got spanked by the Buccaneers, but I
Yeah,
think,
big whoop. Good job.
But again, they were ready to give up. So I think Sirianni did a good job. The only rookie head coach to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that that's something to build off of. I mean, do you risk giving up all of your draft assets plus your quarterback for a mid-30 quarterback who isn't as mobile as he used to be?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to rely on... I mean, he's going to have to do a lot more. Because that offensive line is not good either. They're getting
No,
older.
It's not.
So
And
that's
like,
why I think he's going to stay in Seattle.
I think that the best thing for Russ would be to stay in Seattle, personally, because they know each other super well. And this honestly, to me, sounds like a growing pains issue more than anything else. Because can Russ cost the Seahawks games sometimes? Yes, he literally cost us the Super Bowl. But can he win the Seahawks games sometimes as well? Yes. And I think the same can be said for Carroll as well.
Yeah.
That's a two-way street. They both do the same thing.
I think if Carroll would have... If Seattle wanted to move on from their head coach, they would have already done it.
Yeah, because it'd be awful late to try to get into the head coaching
Right.
carousel unless they literally have someone that they know would say yes
Yeah.
when they pick up the phone. But we'll move on from Wilson. We both think he's staying.
Yeah.
I
think so.
Unless someone really rolls out like the ultimate trade package for him,
Yeah.
he's staying. Because the 12s will kill. The 12s will kill the GM if he goes for anything less than a king's ransom.
Oh, yeah.
So, also that GM is a genius. He is a really good GM in Seattle. But Rodgers, I have a theory with the news that broke today.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very strong theory, and I think you agree with it. That it's at least credible.
It could, yeah.
Yeah, it can happen, but this isn't what can happen. This is what we think is going to happen. So, what do you think is going to happen with Rodgers?
I think Rodgers is going to stay in Green Bay.
What?
Yeah. If you think if we're going off what I think will actually happen, I think Aaron Rodgers will be in the Golden Green next year without Devontae Adams.
Oh, dude. I think. Wow, that's a hot take. That's a really hot take.
I think Devontae Adams is going to sign a mega contract in Las Vegas. He's going to go play with his buddy Derek Carr,
Dude.
and they are going to run the AFC West.
I'm not saying I wouldn't love to say that, but I wouldn't love to see it. But, dude, that is a hot take. I'm glad you didn't tell me that until we were recording because that's a really hot take, and I like it. Dude, okay. Before the news broke today that the Broncos hired his offensive coordinator as their head coach, I thought that it was a 60% chance he retires, actually. Because Rodgers does what he wants to do, and he doesn't shy away from it. And if he wants to retire, the dude's going to retire. I watch the Pat McAfee show all the time. Rodgers is on there every week. And he seems to convey a lot that, if he really enjoys his personal life, and if he feels like the NFL's getting in the way of it, he won't be a part of it anymore. But I think there's a legit chance that he ends up in Denver. But if Aaron Rodgers is playing, I don't think he's in the league next year. If he's playing, he's with a different team. And if a different team isn't able to get him away from Green Bay, I think he retires. Because he almost did this offseason. He was that close to doing it. Dude, I'm still taken back by your Devontae Adams take. I like that, man. Number 3 for offseason stuff. I feel like we can kind of skip because I think we're both on the same page. And it was going to be the Houston Texans. I think we're both on the same page.
Stay away from that franchise.
Stay away from the Texans. Terrible ownership. They don't have a head coach. Deshaun Watson is still there. And they're still paying the man.
Bill O'Brien sank that ship years ago. Do not.
The Tunzel trade was the biggest thing, the biggest signal that there were going to be problems in Houston for the upcoming years. And then DeAndre Hopkins was the other thing. The Hopkins trade was like the stupidest trade in the history of the league. That is up there with the Minnesota Vikings Dallas Cowboys trade.
Oof.
That is up there
Oof.
for Emmitt Smith, right? That's who they paid.
Herschel Walker.
Herschel Walker. That is the stupidest trade in the history of the league. But DeAndre Hopkins from the Texans to the Cardinals might be the second worst ever. That's pretty bad. But anyways, also very quickly so that we can spend time on our conclusions. 2 new coaches were hired today. I think the better of the two is the Broncos getting the Packers offensive coordinator. I think that's a good hire because the offense really struggled. Mm-hmm. The defense is going to take a step back for sure because they lost Vic Fangio, and the defense was good because Vic Fangio was the head coach. But I think getting a good offensive coordinator in there is good. The Packers' offense is not flashy or complex, but it works.
Yeah.
It really works until someone like the 49ers, for some reason, makes it not work. It does work. So I think that's a good start for the Broncos, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually takes a year to bet on Drew Lock. I wouldn't be surprised at all because Drew Lock actually looked pretty darn good against the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Drew Lock as the starter and see him actually improve a little bit this year. I hate the Bears hire. I really hate the Bears hire. The defensive coordinator from Indianapolis. Why?
Aside from the Jacksonville game, which I think you have to put a lot of blame on Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
That defense is the real deal. Like, that defense is very, very good.
It is really, really good. What I don't understand is the Bears' defense was actually pretty decent. Your offense was anemic and gross to watch all year long, and you have Justin Fields. You've got a guy that, like it or not, you're stuck with for probably at least 2 more years before you can maybe move on from him. Mm-hmm. You need to invest in the guy because he is talented, and you need to try to get out of him what you can because he looks bad because the offense looked bad and there's no talent. So I don't understand why in the world you go with that defensive coordinator when it's obvious that your offense desperately needs help. But then again, this market is not great for offensive-minded head coaches, so maybe they just felt like they went with their best option.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what happened, but I hate it. Ryan sounds like he likes it.
I'm impartial. I didn't know about it until, I just got here, so.
Oh, okay. Well, the Bears is going to Bears. We know that. They always do that. We're going to go into conclusions in just a second. We will be right back. Okay, very, very quickly, because we don't have much time left, we're going to dive into our conclusions. Ryan, you go first. Take up time.
So, my big conclusion, I think the best available job out of all the head coaching positions this offseason before the hires were made was the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a star in the making in Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
They're going to get Etienne back from his ACL injury.
I think that impacted them a lot.
Yeah. And I think if they draft smart, Shaka Khan has shown that he is willing to work with the head coach. I think that's why Urban Meyer lasted 13 games. He wanted Urban to turn it around. Urban didn't. But I think that is the best place to go for a head coach.
And I agree with him on that point. I think that it is the best spot a head coach could go to, but people are so wary of it because of what Urban Meyer did. And I bet there's a lot of distrust right now with those players towards head coaches because they might feel like Khan kind of betrayed him a little bit with how long he let Urban Meyer stay.
Yeah.
My conclusion is I have no other way to say this, so I'm just going to say it, and editor, you take care of it. The overtime rules in the league. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Yo, episode 4. Hopefully I'll be back next week. Thank you guys for watching.
Peace.